Awesome, awesome. Good morning. Thanks for coming this morning and committing your time to being here early to get yourself started. All right. All righty. Um, Chat room is open. If you guys have any specific topics coming into this week and also this month and really the entire new year, um, make sure that you add that to the chat and we will make sure to discuss it. And I am pulling up the topic for today to add for y'all. So today we're talking about moving forward, um, just having even an understanding of the things that we need to do, want to do, um, knowing what to even put on our plate, what to even add to our plates, um, to even know if that's something we're supposed to be moving in. That is something that comes up often for people, just like trying to even that's like one of the number one questions when the post goes up in group every week, and it's like, what are your questions, what is kind of on your mind this week? um People are always asking that, like, am I moving in the right direction? And then we're also going to talk a little bit about the new moon in Capricorn. um the first thing I always ask people is, did you like just kind of check in and do the divination? Like, was there any prayer? Was there any um like when that idea came to you, did you pray on it? Did you meditate on it? Even for a second. I'm not saying that this kind of thing needs to happen like long term, or it needs to take a certain amount of time. It's really like, when this idea came to you, did you kind of separate yourself from it? Because I think what happens is fundamentally a question of trust. I hear people say all the time, I trust myself, I trust myself. That's a portion of it. You have to trust yourself to hear what was given to you, and you have to trust yourself to accept what was given to you. But you didn't create that idea. You like that came to you divinely. And so what really has to be trusted is your spirit team. Like, I trust God, I trust my saints, I trust my angels to guide me where I'm supposed to be going. So they've given this to me. Now, they've entrusted this idea to me. They've given me this idea. They've imparted this knowledge on me. So that means I must be capable. That means I'm like, I must, like, somehow the resources are going to come. That means, in some way, shape, or form, um, things are going to come together. So I have to trust myself on this journey to making sure that I'm present, like I have to trust myself. I have to encourage myself even on the journey to stay present. So kind of for me at this point, um it's hard for me to continue to answer those basic questions for people, because when somebody asks that question, that lets me know they're not really doing any work. They're not really moving forward. Um, or they're not there yet. Maybe this is the beginning for them. Maybe they've been kind of tossing all this stuff around and they've been looking at it, but they haven't really delved in. Because somebody who's a little further along on the journey isn't like, am I in the right place? Am I doing the right thing? That may cross your mind, but you already know how to like go find the answer to that. And typically the question is a little deeper. It's not so much like, am I on the right path? Well, I mean, if you were way south on a detour, like you would know that. Your life would be reflective of that. 9 times out of 10, we're not so far off. We just want permission to do what our soul knows to do. Like sometimes we just kind of want that permission. It's like, oh, I've been wanting to, I don't know, do these solo trips and be a travel blogger because my soul is like calling me towards this thing. And then you get your natal chart done and understand you have a lot of air energy and fire energy, which makes you want to move about and do all these different things. So then it kind of gives you permission. It's like, oh, okay, like I really was feeling that. I really wasn't that far off. And so then you're like, okay, yeah, like I didn't just pull that out of nowhere. But if you're even slightly attuned to your soul, you know that you're not just kind of, most people aren't living that inauthentically, that they're just doing things that are outside the scope. A lot of times when you're doing these things, it's an expression. It's just an expression of who you are and who you're designed to be. It's like one expression of it. So I think that in order to understand how to keep moving, I think the question is more so, am I centered enough to be present enough to continue to hear that still small voice? Am I centered enough to hear when when I'm getting divine knowledge, or um am I brave enough to move in what I'm being asked to do? I think those are the questions, way more than am I on the right path? Um and it's a hard thing to work with people on, because a lot of folks want to stay kind of surface with that, and they don't understand that there really is a depth to this. It's layers to it. So just kind of opening the floor for y'all, um just in gaining an understanding of like maybe what questions you ask yourself about like how to move forward, how to make moves. How do you know when it's time to move? Like, what does that feel like in your being to know that it's time to move? And likewise, too, also maybe looking at, are you brave enough to sit still? Because that might be part of the move forward. And then y'all can add stuff to the chat room as well. But just looking at that and just trying to gain an understanding for yourself, like, really looking at what it even takes to move forward. Like, are you excited? Do you feel passionate? Because that's a huge thing for a lot of people too. Is like it's hard for them to move forward if they don't feel maybe passionate. Um, Sometimes folks don't move forward if they don't feel like, it's like if your mind was like, oh, I'm gonna go do this, and your mind is like, yeah, I'm gonna go here, but you've been given a direction to do something else. That's where people get caught up too. Um, that happened to me a while ago. I'd written out this whole thing and was just like, yeah, um I'm going to like create this whole program and do this and do that. I just told myself I was going to do all this stuff. And then I sat down with Christine and was just like, my question was, um, give me I basically asked for clarity on my next steps because I felt like I had been cluttered. It was like I had a lot going on, just work wise, a lot going on with the kids. And I didn't feel as balanced as possible. And so that was kind of my question, was just like make sure that I heard this appropriately. And really what I was asked to do was to have a seat. And it was like, no, you could do that, but that's the easy thing to do. We're really asking you to come over here, but you're avoiding hearing that because you're trying to do the easier thing. And I had to just be like, yikes. Well, so sometimes just that amount of clutter gets in the way. Um, lifing, just us trying to pay the bills every day, that kind of adds to some of the muck and the mire and the sludge. Um, so yeah, opening up the chat room for any of your experiences, um or either you can unmute yourself to talk about any of your experiences as well. Yeah. When it's time for me to move forward, I usually start to get little nudges that gradually turn into big, insistent thumps. Right. So, and those nudges are different, I think, for everybody. Um, sometimes, um, sometimes those nudges, like sometimes they can actually feel physical. Like it really feels like physically, it's like I want to shed this skin. I want to move into this other dimension. I want to move into this new space. Um, Sometimes I know sometimes for me it feels like someone's talking and I just can't hear. So I'll be like, gosh, like I feel like something's trying to come through. Like I can literally feel something is stuck. Um, Sometimes it's like I've had the same conversation over and over. Um, so just for y'all, like talk about what some of those nudges feel like, because for everybody it's something a little bit different. Yeah, working on not ignoring them, because when I do, that's when it becomes insistent. Yeah. It almost feels like something needs to pop. Like it feels like a push, 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 and it feels like something is coming through. Like you can feel it. Like you can literally feel that. And then sometimes I've seen it just get kind of quiet, just it's just quiet. Like I'll pray on things and then or meditate on things, and usually there is a space of like synchronicity that occurs. There's some type of synchronicity that happens, whether it's in a conversation or I hear something on the phone, or it's just there's some type of synchronicity that happens. And then sometimes I'll pray on stuff and there's just nothing. Like I don't feel the presence of my saints or my guides. I don't feel that vibration there. And I'm kind of like, what is going on? Like, what is actually happening? The other time is like sometimes I'll feel just a little discombobulated. Like I feel like maybe a little scattered, kind of all over the place a bit. So I'm kind of like, but then that's really me being tapped and me just kind of being elsewhere. Like mentally, I'm like, do 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 do, and I'm just kind of all over the place. Um, and so sometimes it's like, yeah, I'll hear stuff but I'm not, and I'm like consciously ignoring it. And then sometimes I'm just frazzled and doing different stuff, and that push kind of comes into play that way too. Where it's like, okay. And then there's sometimes where I feel like it's just this knowing. Um, it's just this knowing where it's like, oh, all these other things are coming at me, but I know if I don't try this or do this, or if I don't focus here, I'm gonna have issues. Like I just like you just know it. You just like if I don't get this together, this gonna be a problem. You just know. You can just feel it. That just taps into kind of that clairsentient ability that we have to there's just that knowing, that feeling that you just can't quantify. Yeah. So new moon in Capricorn kind of goes along with this, because that new moon in Capricorn is like talking about standing on business, standing on your principles, standing on this foundation that you have and really understanding that foundation. But the key is that that foundation needs to be something that is substantial. It's got to be substantial. Like you can't stand on business and like it's built on a house of cards. That doesn't make any sense. You have to, like, you're building your life and you have these principles, then you have to make sure that those principles and those standards are valid, and that they're progressive. That's what means something, is to stand on things like that. I mean, and people do it all the time. It's like, oh, this is how I guide my life. That's cool. Everybody has a different way to guide their life. Everybody. But if we're ever gonna progress, move forward, see any type of positive change, then those standards have to mean something. Like they have to be something really worth building a foundation on. And I think, honestly, like that's where we're struggling with this moving forward piece, is that a lot of the stuff that things have just kind of gotten like so out of order. Things have gotten so really out of order. People just do whatever. Just a bunch of whatever. I can do this because I can. I can do this because I feel like it. I can do this. And it's just kind of like, yikes, you know? And then the other portion of that is people imposing their standards. You know, it's like, those are your standards. That's completely okay. Guide your life by it. And then I'm going to guide my life over here. But I think kind of at some point, like, standards and values have to look a little similar, and they're not. Like, they're not looking similar at this point. And I think that's kind of where it's hard to move forward, and things, because so many things are changing, so many ideas are changing, especially when it comes to how we see ourselves as individuals, how we see ourselves as individuals within the collective unit. All of that stuff is changing. And it is just, I think, difficult for folks to just kind of move, because it's like everything you do is almost being judged as well. Everything's under the microscope. Everything's under the microscope. Everything's being judged. Or people place themselves up for judgment. This is half of what happens online every day. Somebody posts something, and it's meant to be for good, and here comes somebody like Debbie Downer coming through, and you're like, that's what you got from that? Where'd you even get that? There's no we have the right to freedom of expression and freedom to think about things a certain way, but then there's also a space where we haven't uh, across the board created a system of standards that make sense for everybody. Even with the legal system, people are judged differently based on whoever steps in and however they want that to go. Like you can't even depend on that. There are laws that are written down and they still figure out a way to do things differently and not hold stuff to the same standard. Um and so yeah, there's a lot of, I think, all of these differing opinions and values are great, but at the same time, um I think it's created a space where it's gotten us way off track. And then I think it makes it difficult for people trying to progress in their own space personally, because you're thinking, oh, like this really resonates with my soul. I really want to do this, but how is that going to be perceived? And then you kind of don't move the way that you're being guided to move. Any last thoughts, questions, comments, experiences, ideas? All right, so we're just going to do a little meditation here for this new moon. Just some affirmations. Just hands over the heart. And we're just going to sit still for a couple seconds, breathing and centering. No specific breath. I just want you to concentrate on your own personal rhythm. Today's affirmations are ones of confidence and grounding. I am capable. I am confident. I am ready to move forward. I receive all that my intuition is giving me for guidance. I trust my intuition. I trust my spirit team to guide me. I'm attuned to divine and Holy Spirit. I'm attuned to my spirit team and trust what they are giving me and how they are guiding me. I am capable of discerning and making decisions for myself and the things that I need for my life. I'm thankful for the vision set before me. I'm thankful for the patient guidance of my angels, my saints, and God. I trust that the universe will open paths for me and that I will receive that open path and move forward in all that is divinely assigned to me. Just for the next few seconds, we're going to let that energy just enter within and settle within our spirit. And as we come back to the present, prepared for our day, prepared for for the rest of our week, I just want you guys to give thanks for coming to this session today and making sure that you always take the time um, to take time out for yourself. So thank you for coming today, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. Bye.